So, it's that time of year again, the spooky month of Halloween. I don't think I know a single person that doesn't enjoy this holiday, nor have some form of tradition to celebrate. From eating copious amounts of candy, to playing scary video games, or in my case, starting last year, watching every Treehouse of Horror special from The Simpsons. Whether or not you're a fan of the show, most people I think can admit to at least watching one of the many episodes, and they range not only in quality, but from what they're parodying. From classics to new hits, from sci-fi to horror, from exact recreations to roughly making their own story with the same premise. So, in the spirit of Halloween, I'm bringing back the dead idea with the dead show, reviewing every Treehouse of Horror segment in 10 words or less, because frankly, spending any longer than that would be an utter nightmare. With the most recent episode in Season 33, there are a total of 97 segments. That's roughly estimated to be about 9 hours worth of horror content, that only 4 of which involve the Treehouse. So, here are the basic rules for this. These will be ranked on full numbers from 1 to 10, 1 being the absolute worst, and 10 being the absolute best. 10 words and 10 words at max will be used to describe or joke about each segment. You can find the episode the segment is in here, the movie or series is parodying here, and we'll be starting from the first Treehouse of Horror in 1990 and finishing with the latest get in 2021. Also, I won't be including any intro segments, no regular episodes that happen to take place on Halloween, and no other holiday specials that use this format like Thanksgiving and Horror or Fight Before Christmas. There are no negative numbers as they're all meant to have some level of humor and care, and as always, my opinion is opinion. My opinion is not fact, and frankly, I have trash opinions, and I kinda wanna hear what you guys think of the segments down below. Oh, and one last thing I wanna mention, being an adult animated show, it's gonna have a lot of adult and graphic scenes. I'll try to avoid showing these, but if I have to, I'll leave a little warning right here at the bottom of the screen. But anyways, there are 32 episodes with 97 segments altogether, so I'm gonna stop wasting time. Let's get watching! The first of many suicides indirectly caused by The Simpsons. You see, kids, the real aliens were man. To roughly translate into English, piss off bird! Nevermore. If only they knew how accurate their popularity wish was. An average Twilight Zone segment with a surpassing average execution. Mr. Burns fires Homer, only to unintentionally rehire him. Hey, for my first act, I'm Johnny your father. I should really stop doing impressions. Return to monkey. You'll get to eat humans. Turns out the Necronomicon makes great family exchanges. Who knew? Very well written. The devil's in the details. Bart's right. There is nothing scarier than going to school. You see, vampires are scary, even with that stupid outfit. Cult classic and faithful parody Where Willie Dies. Fun time travel plot with wacky settings Where Willie Dies. Nightmarish cannibals in this legitimately terrifying short Where Willie Dies. Silence, Brand, says the brand. Do not touch Willie. Oh, now you tell us? Looks like someone really liked their 3D test. Disney presents The Parent Trap, directed by Wes Craven. That's why you should never let your siblings play SimCity, the segment that created a generation of paranoid boomers. Probably. Racism. Gets you into trouble and out of trouble. Shoo, Bart, don't bother me. Don't say Amogus, that's irrelevant. Don't say it. Amogus, damn it! Worthy of an 8 out of 10, only by a hair. Decapitation and gutting Scratchy? Okay. Laughing at him? Die! Alright, Alien Maggie, here's your Shh! Jerry Springer's here. Marge did hit a dog, also a human. Double kill. You thought Iron Man was what kickstarted the MCU? Nope! Like the real Y2K, it crashed and whined out early. Homer's in line for a Darwin Award, even in the afterlife. Not grim enough for my fairy tales, but still great. Moral of the story, never be nice. Kill the animals! Murphy's Law, offensively Irish edition.
My simping is too important for you to jeopardize my
Magic sibling jealousy turns into brain stealing and snake vor. I hate that I wrote that. The government stops the apocalypse through obesity genocide. Probably what rednecks fear will happen if we ban guns. Oh boy, conspiracy fuel and furry material. Homer makes his unintentional mass killing a business. Ooh, Dark Harvest, my favorite Invader Zim episode. Bartholomew Jojo Simpson's bizarre adventure. Ned as an angel of death? Hope they don't ruin that soon. Honorary Most Non-British British Award. Homer and the Simpsons, Mr. Burns' Inside Story. Improvement over the original movie, but that's not saying much. It's probably what Mr. Burns does when he's not working. Alright, here's the concept. Time to do nothing else. Must eat more fat people. Thank God I'm in America. Jewish jokes, just those. No like, get out. Mass hysteria leads to animal role-playing and actual invasions. Moral of the stories, never be nice. Kill the aliens. Where's the Simpsons? It's just spy and sniper fan shipping. Ned plays the role of the average devout Christian. Nothing special here. Needs more explosions to be a true Transformers parody. Twitter presents Capitalism, the movie, the segment. Milhouse summons racist pumpkin deity to punish the non-believers. Alright, Hitchcock segment. Which one do we... All of them. Bart Simpson bathwater? Maybe that streamer was onto something. Quasimodo finds himself the wrong play, but sings anyway. Remember kids, it's not product placement if a syllable's different. Sir, if you just listen... No! Death without consequences! Seems the writers stopped watching halfway through. Fine by me. Making farts unfunny? Easy. Making fights boring? How do you... And you made it bland as white bread. Good job. If this was made in Japan, it would be a hentai. Holy moly, what an... Alright episode. Kinda meh, but still better than Ghost Dimension. Thinking too hard? It doesn't make sense. Not thinking? It's very unfunny. Hard rhyming with 10 letters. At least this short's a pleasure. Remember when people cared for Bart? Me neither. What I was and wasn't expecting when things got freaky. Crude humor, care for family, perfectly balanced. Honorary Most Non-British British Accent Award. Oh, cute callback. Look at the... What the fuck? A herbophobic necrophile's fantasies come true. Ha! Low budget. Get it? Well, that's all I got. Didn't expect Silver to get an episode before Sonic. Alright, you want to do Hunger Games or Mad Max? Yes. The best original story they've had in a while. Moral of the story? Kill the boo! Wait a minute. Looks like Maggie's finally going up. She's getting her own segment. Aw, a segment robbing of another Vor joke. Still decent. Just kidding. The Vor joke's back. Ha 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 ha! And Self-Vor, my favorite! This is just disgusting. I don't even like that. I'd say Comic Book Guy said it best. C-. I don't think anyone writing this knows about split personalities. Listen to your elders, kids, or they might eat you. Sound wasn't on, and I was napping, but I got it. Didn't expect wiener choking being the thing that killed him. Patty and Kodos are pretty similar in terms of grossness. Oh my god! They actually care for Bart this time! Homer homes Homers, homed in Homer's world in Homerverse. Do I show this on Groundhog Day or my birthday? Let's show the big man upstairs by killing ourselves. I speak for the trees. The trees say, kill. Whimsy! Funny animation! Shut it down! No creativity allowed here! Sadly, it seems like TikTok parties would be a thing. So, that's all of them. Some are good, some are bad, a bunch of meh ones, but to me, it would be a video without looking at the best of the best. So here are my top 5 favorite and top 5 least favorite episodes of the bunch. Also, I put a list of all the episodes ranked here in the description, along with the rankings of best to worst, so you can find your favorites and tell me how wrong I am. But anyways, I'll switch between worst and best, start with number 5 worst, and ending on number 1 best. Number 5 worst, Dry Hard. I feel like I got what the segment wanted to do, killing 2 birds with 1 stone by having one segment about 2 of the most popular post-apocalyptic movies at the time. But to me, it feels like it didn't hit either bird and lost the stone with the segment. Neither parody's jokes are all that funny, with one exception, as tributes neither tackle either movie's concepts in a good way. That's because despite both Mad Max and Hunger Games having separate themes of tyrannical governments and lack of resources, they're still 2 separate franchises with their own concepts, plotlines, and story elements. If they just focused on one or the other, it would have made for a more focused and overall better story. Number 5 best, Frankenstein. While a lot of segments past the classic era can greatly range in quality, I feel like in this fan-dubbed dull modern era, I feel like there's some gems to be found, and surprisingly, I haven't found a lot of people praising this one as I will. They say the comedy and graphic content aren't easy, and I'll show later that it can lead to some big blunders, but Frankenstein shows both off in a very well and creative way. From the monstrous collection and amalgamation of Father Frank's torso, or stealing others' brains in the middle of a conference, and to finish it all off, despite the context, it's somewhat wholesome as the story ends, with the father Frank coming to accept his son, with maybe just a little bit more gore. Number 4 worst, Diving Bell and the Butterball. Now, there are a lot of criticism people give Martin Simpsons. Poor pacing, bland characters, lack of heart, etc. But I think a prevalent feature, and the reason this is number 4, is because it's boring. Most of the segment falls around roughly the same joke, Homer farting. With some occasional Shire shenanigans, it really isn't all that funny the first time, or the second time, or pretty much any time. And while the Spire does shake things up, they aren't really funny either, so in a way, I'm sort of glad this short feels like one of the shortest segments ever. But overall, it feels just like a comedian telling a bad joke again and again, hoping to see someone crack a smile if they just tried it one more time. Number 4 best, Nightmare Cafeteria. Now we're getting into the big ones. From Treehouses 1 to 7, they're often the most talked about and most praised out of the whole series, and I frankly agree. With so many heavy hitters, let's start off with one of the more terrifying ones, Nightmare Cafeteria. From the start, the scene is set, and all throughout, it only gets darker and more tense as the scene goes and characters start to go missing, all culminating with the teachers stalking and saliving over the children like zombies. While this is actually terrifying in concept and execution, it still has a pretty good sense of humor, from the obviously fake stories the teachers come up with, the children being kept like wild stock, and of course, Billy dies, one of the most iconic shorts for a damn good reason. Wow! Number 3 worst, Wanted Dead Than Alive. Gore and violence, I can handle. Comedic deaths and villains getting their justice, I can handle. While those do work, I wouldn't say this segment's negatives more than outweigh the positives this short could bring. I'm surprised no segment's done this until now. In execution, the deaths start as a good twist, but afterwards it just slows to a crawl. Seeing him move on and get a career in a university isn't all that interesting, funny, or anything really. I guess it's intentional as it focuses on the main aspect. The sad aspect is just plain disgusting, the deaths. The first couple of deaths are incredibly graphic, show a lot of organs and bones crack, plus playing with his body afterwards is just plain weird. While later deaths get more cartoony in nature, the joke runs thin quickly, and it seems the writers got stuck into a corner. If there's no deaths, it's boring. With gory deaths, it's just gross. And the cartoony deaths, they just don't hit as well after all is said and done. Number 3 best, The Shinning. Okay, I won't lie to you. I actually haven't seen any of the original films based on the top 5. Uncultured swine, I know. But even without that, I can still appreciate the classic segment they pay homage to, and The Shinning's probably one of the most beloved segments out there for that reason. While Nightmare Cafeteria was more horror with plenty of comedy, nearly every scene in the segment both hits humor and horror perfectly. From simple gags like the cable out and Mo bringing Homer back into the story, or have a bit of humor to terrifying scenes like door busting, the chase through the snow, or even the go crazy segment. Out of all the segments on this list or in the series, I believe this one balances horror and humor the best at excelling with both. It's one of the most iconic Simpsons skits, and it's typically the fan favorite for amongst fans. Number 2 worst, Danger Things. Fun fact, I just finished season 1 midway through the month, and after seeing that and what the writers did, I'm convinced no one watched the show, or even looked at a plot summary, just saw the characters and locations off Google Images and just ran with that. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of segments that just do their own thing, but here it seems they want to do some loving parody, as they have similar setups to scenes, but no emotion, effort, or even the context on why these scenes happen in the first place, nor how they plan out. Plus, you're usually crummy obvious jokes, boring moments, characters acting like basic shells of both the original cast and who they're mocking, and add that all with probably the worst adaptation of another property in terms of accuracy. A lot of people will say that modern Simpsons writers don't really care what they're making, but this is the only time I'll truly say that they didn't care for the original source material. Number 2 best, The Devil and Homer Simpson. For me, this is probably my most nostalgic segment, when being the one I remember the most, and first remember seeing, but I can't deny the nostalgia, it's still great regardless. While Nightmare had great horror, I'd say Devil and Homer Simpson is more focused on humor than horror. There are some scary moments here and there, but the main focus is on the comedy of the situation. It has some of the funniest skits yet in my opinion. Outsmarting the devil, ironic punishments, and the courtroom scenes are all great on their own, and all the characters are top notch, with a lot of great moments with Homer and the devilishly Ned Flanders specifically. For the longest time, this was my favorite Treehouse special, but recently that has changed. But first, number 1 worst, Homerzilla. Out of all the parodies, Homerzilla seems like the only one that actively disrespects the source material. Most of the segments are just filled with crummy jokes and jabs on which the original movie was made, very, very loosely basing on the original 1954 Godzilla, just before adding cheesy effects and jokes about special effects and Japanese customs. I get that those movies were very cheap and hokey, but you've made tons of loving good segments based off movies with bad effects and productions. Probably my least favorite part, as well as my least favorite moments in all of Simpsons, is the ending segment. Focusing on making Homerzilla a movie franchise and failing, it feels way too long, painful and funny, and frankly just confusing. There are several segments that show you don't need to follow a story one-to-one and can still laugh at some parts of the source material, but given the absolute disrespect to the whole franchise as a whole, dry humor that just goes in circles, plus the little semblance to the original plot's themes, it honestly feels like a cruel joke where no one but the one telling it is laughing. Number 1 best, Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace. For a lot of people, Treehouses 3 and 5 are their favorites, and for good reason. Not to take a jab at the other classic episodes, but I bring that up because my personal effect is right after those big 3. Retelling the story of Nightmare on Elm Street, it goes back to focusing on horror, with each of the kids being attacked one by one, and putting Bart and Lisa very close to death's door. Another aspect I think that's also great is the animation. The opening scene that looks ripped out of an 80s cartoon, the dream settings, and Willie's transformations are all things we haven't quite seen in The Simpsons before, really helps it stand out, and are all just great to see. And while Homerzilla probably had some of the worst humor I've seen in the show, this segment probably has some of the best, with many iconic gags and moments that really show off the classic era's great sense of humor. Too much to put in a simple segment like this. And yes, I haven't seen the original Elm Street yet. I can still appreciate its own story and all the things I've loved about it so far.